Achievement pressure is a big topic these days, and as parents, it can be a really tricky space to navigate. We want our kids to do well, but we also don't want them to feel like their achievements are what matters most to us. On top of that is our own psychology around how we were raised and whether our achievements felt tied to our parents' love and pride. So, how do we encourage competency in our kids without making them feel like their achievements are the most important thing about them? Stick with me while I answer that question and more. Hi, I'm Jess Kingsford, and here at Happy Hearts Parenting, we help kids thrive through connection, kindness, and contribution. Because right now, more and more kids are struggling with their mental and emotional health. And yet, the research is clear. Kids thrive most when they feel seen and valued, when they know they have something to give, and when they know that what they do in the lives of others matters. So, let's get into it. Is it so bad to want your child to do well and to praise them when they do manage to achieve something? No, of course it isn't. And actually, it feels quite natural, doesn't it? Wanting our kids to develop skills and competencies that'll help them survive as adults is very likely an evolved human instinct. And in today's hyper competitive environment, that instinct seems to be dialed way up high. Research shows that many parents are pushing their kids to do well, not because they're tiger parents, but out of a fear for their child's future survival in today's competitive employment and economic environment. But there is an important distinction to be made in all of this. There's a real difference between supporting your child's development of skills and praising their efforts and their progress along the way, and unintentionally elevating the importance of a child's achievements to the point where they start to see their self-worth primarily in terms of their achievements. And when that starts to happen, it can lead to some pretty worrying things like maladaptive perfectionism, stress, anxiety, fear of failure, and lower self-esteem. Kids can also start to develop that niggling sense that they'll never be quite good enough for their parents, their teachers, for whoever it is out there who's judging them. Now, when I talk to parents about this, so often they'll say, I've hit a raw nerve, because that's how they felt growing up. So the not good enough phenomenon is a really common experience for many people. And it's surely something that you want to avoid for your child. Now, apart from being linked to those negative outcomes I just mentioned, just as concerning is the way that an overly achievement-focused childhood can shape what a child comes to value and what they can fail to value. Children who prioritize their own journey and their own successes above all else and above everybody else can fail to value the things that actually underpin their mental and emotional health. Things like the quality of their relationships with other people, their ability to cooperate and collaborate, their capacity for generosity and contribution, their capacity for care and consideration, the list goes on. These are all intangible things. They're hard to see, and yet they're so foundational to well-being because they all contribute to the development of a healthy orientation towards other people and to a child's capacity to weather the storms of adult life later on, regardless of how outwardly successful they may or may not be in life. So where does that leave us? What can we do as parents trying to navigate this whole achievement space? Well, I'm going to suggest 4 things that you can do, and stick with me because it's probably the 4th thing that matters most in my view. Okay, tip number 1, focus on growth more than achievement. I often say to parents, it's absolutely okay if things like awards and grades and certificates don't carry much weight in your home. In fact, it's probably better if they don't. But we do need to be careful not to swing too far the other way and give our kids the impression that effort and growth don't matter at all, because that's just not true. A life where a child, and later on a teenager, isn't trying at all, isn't stretching themselves or developing any skills or competencies, isn't going to be as fulfilling as one where they are growing and exploring and discovering what they're capable of, whatever that happens to be. So let's not pretend that because you don't value achievements in your home, the awards and the certificates, you also don't care about whether your child is successfully developing any skills or competencies at all, because you probably do care deep down, and your child can probably tell that you do, in spite of your efforts to hide it. So just be really clear with your child that you do care, that they're learning and developing and growing, but that you don't care whether there are any certificates along the way to prove it. Secondly, and this sort of follows on from the first tip, try to be really clear about why you hope your child develops skills and competencies and interests, not so that they will become more worthy of your love and pride, but rather for their sake. Because the more skills and interests and competencies they develop, the better their life is going to be for them. They're more likely to find a job that's rewarding and hobbies they find engaging and enjoyable. So let's look at an example of what this might sound like. Say your child wins an award or gets a high grade on a test. Instead of saying, "Wow, you're so amazing. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to tell your Nana when we see her again." Try saying this instead: "Well done. How exciting for you. That's a great skill to have. You're so lucky to be good at that." Both those responses are positive and affirmative, but the first response focuses on the way your child's achievement has made you feel, while the second shifts the focus onto the benefits that your child's achievement will bring to them. It's a subtle but powerful difference. Give it a try the next time you praise your child for some little success that they've had. My third tip is to watch our other video on this topic: how to motivate your child to learn and develop skills. In other words, how to encourage them to make progress and achieve little things without them becoming overly achievement oriented as a result. There's a lot to cover in answering this question, too much to include here in this video, and that's because it involves a whole body of research on what's called self-determination theory and the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And honestly, if you're a parent or anyone, in fact, it's one of the most powerful things you can learn about. So please do check that video out. However, in a nutshell, children do need to be given positive feedback from you when they're trying to get better at something, when they're trying to achieve something. They do need to be praised and encouraged, but in a particular way. You really want the nature of your praise to result in the activity itself becoming more rewarding for your child, rather than your praise or any rewards you might be offering resulting in your child craving more such rewards and affirmations, and therefore actually undermining their interest in the activity itself. It's a fascinating topic, so please do check out that video to learn more about it. And my last tip is possibly the most important one, so it's great that you're still watching. Help your child feel seen and valued. At the start of this video, we talked about the pain that many people experience as children and really throughout their life, because they never felt like their achievements were quite good enough to earn their parents' love. Does this hit a nerve for you? And how can you avoid your child experiencing the same thing? This is a big topic too, and many people are writing about it and talking about it because we're starting to understand how profoundly this matters. Children need to feel that they are seen and that they're enough, exactly as they are. and that the love they deserve from their parents is not conditional. It doesn't depend on what they're capable of achieving or producing. How can you do this? Well, you can start by distinguishing in your mind who your child is from what they can do. Their achievements might be worth celebrating at times, but they shouldn't be what make your child worthy of your love. So just make sure your words and attention reflect that distinction. And you can do that by showing genuine interest in things about your child that have nothing to do with what they've produced. Notice and talk about those less visible things, their personality, their ideas, their quirks, their sense of humor, the way they think about things. Ask questions and generate chats that demonstrate your interest in these things instead of things like, how they did on their spelling test or what they made in their art class. And there's one more crucial piece to all of this. Who your child is isn't just something that exists in isolation. It's also reflected in how they are with other people. So, part of helping your child feel seen and valued is showing interest in that side of them too. Who are they as a friend, as a sibling, as a classmate? How do they express their care for others, their kindness, generosity, or thoughtfulness towards other people? You're not trying to shape them into being a better person in these conversations or tying your love to how well they treat others. You're simply noticing and showing interest in those aspects of their character, helping them see that who they are for other people is something you value in them too. Because when children feel that they are seen, not just as individuals, but as people who can connect, care, and contribute to the lives of others, it gives them a deeper sense of who they are. And in doing so, it lessens the sense that they are defined by what they're capable of achieving. So, to recap, we've covered a lot in this video, but the main points are achievement pressure and an overly achievement focused childhood can harm children in all sorts of ways. In particular, it can make them feel that their self-worth is tied to what they can produce and achieve. And it can also really interfere with their development of character traits that are actually tied to their long-term well-being. Traits that, in one way or another, promote a healthy orientation towards other people. There are lots of things you can do to help your child be less achievement oriented, and in doing those things, to help your child develop a stronger sense of who they truly are in themselves and who they can be for others. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone who you think might value it as well. And check out our other resources at Happy Hearts Parenting to support your child's development through connection, kindness, and contribution. Thanks for watching. Happy parenting, and I'll see you next time.